I'm trying to figure out how to connect my AirPods to my MacBook. I don't know how. Google. Oh, okay. Perfect. Can you guys see me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear my TV? I did. Can you hear my TV?
Somebody's TV I can.
It's probably mine. I'll turn it off.
It's okay. It wasn't bothering me.
It's minimal.
It's Gilmore Girls.
You know, that's the only CW show I probably have not watched.
Me either.
I've watched One Tree, Gossip Girl, OC, but not Gilmore Girls.
Really?
Am I missing anything good?
Did you ever, is Vampire Diaries on that?
Yes, I'm on season 8 of that.
Hey, then
They're bringing out season 9.
Did you ever watch the originals?
No, but that's the originals, and then there's another one that I have on my list to watch.
The Legacies.
Yes, that's
I
it.
did not watch the originals. I only watched Vampire Diaries.
I used to love the originals.
Klaus in the originals?
Yes.
Yeah. I have not watched it yet. But as soon as I'm done with Vampire Diaries, I will.
Christina, are we matchy? No, that's a different shirt. Never mind.
I
thought you were wearing Cincy Fade.
I almost wore that today. Yeah, I don't know.
Would have been a good choice.
I know. It would have been amazing. Hi. Mallory Thompson.
Hello, friends.
Hey.
Hi.
I was really bad today.
You were?
I was bad today.
Why?
Because I bought a MacBook.
Read.
That's not bad.
That's
Treat yourself.
That's awesome.
You know why?
Because well, lots of reasons.
I love my bedroom so much. I love my bedroom so much. I was tired of being in the basement.
Yes. You deserve to work in bed sometimes. Hey.
I know. It's just so, like, my office is, like, full-time trashed in the spring right now. And it makes it so hard sometimes to, like, focus. Anyway.
Oh, I bet. If I didn't have, like, a door I could shut, yeah, no.
I needed something a little faster. There's a few programs that I use a lot that my iMac just hated. So I love my iMac, and it works really good for, like, gentle computing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
As opposed to hardcore computing. What?
Hardcore. So I just needed something that would be useful on the go.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Hardcore. My computer is terrible, so that's my next big purchase. So kudos.
I have a laptop from like 10 years ago, so yes,
Yep.
I need a new. Yes, it's on the bucket list of things to get. But I don't know if I want a desktop or a laptop.
Get a laptop with a monitor.
Or
Yeah.
if you're Christina, I say
That's
both.
what I have right now. Yeah.
Hold on.
It's a pretty big problem.
You have an Apple
Alright.
problem, like I have a Samsung problem.
You have a what problem?
A Samsung problem. I buy
Oh.
everything Samsung. Everything.
Oh.
Phone, tablet, computer,
Samesies.
monitor, TV. If I could buy a Samsung refrigerator, I probably would.
Probably would.
That is hilarious. Hey, somebody has to be that person, or else Samsung wouldn't be in business. So, I mean,
I'll be it.
that's you. Designated Samsung.
Samsung person.
There you go.
Has everybody else experienced really crazy weather today, like storms and rain?
Yes.
I think we're supposed to. I kind of wish it would be doing more than it is, though.
I have
Me
a
too.
headache from the weather.
You okay?
All right, friends. Text all your besties and tell them to get their booties in here real quick.
Say hi, Doug. Say hello.
Her. True. No, let me see.
Okay.
So we're still talking about juggling in June. And tonight I just wanted to talk a little bit more about like leadership juggling stuff, right? Because I feel like we juggle different things at different titles. And so not necessarily juggling your life with your business, like a lot of the other things we've been talking about, but maybe juggling the different parts of your business. If that makes sense. Okay. So we're going to try to talk about like juggling different parts of your business. So one thing people call me, which it's funny because I don't really have a system for this. I have a system for like your business and your life, but I don't necessarily have a system that helps you juggle the different parts of your business better. Does that make sense? So I was talking to a bunch of different leaders this week to see what they do, because I know that like I could do better in the area of frontline focus, but I know people who do really, really well at it. And some of those people are Chloe Cox and Katie Farner. So one thing that like happens as you build your team is people get really, really obsessed with spending almost too much time on their team, and they start spending less time in their personal businesses, when honestly you really can't let that change. Your personal business still has to be 80% of your focus. Does that make sense? So what really has to happen is finding a healthy balance between all of the different parts of your business and making sure that you have systems in place that help you better harmonize them. Hey, what do you want, girl? I'm really distracted by this. That's why I keep stopping. So I don't know if anybody has ever experienced that before, where they felt like once they became a leader, their business got super like off kilter, or they felt like they kind of like lost the balance between where their focus should be and where it kind of just got stolen to. I know that a lot of times it's more money, more problems, but sometimes it's more teammates, more problems, when you feel like maybe your culture shift is changing in ways that you weren't able to like take care of, or that you weren't able to step in front of or get ahead of before it kind of started being something that you had to deal with retroactively instead of proactively. A lot of times too, we get to the point where maybe we had things we were doing for a small team, and then our team got big and we realized we can't be doing that for a larger team. And so we like felt kind of lost in like how to get the same effects of the smaller team and a larger team, or how to scale. Stop, you're gonna hurt her. Stop, leave her alone. She does not want you. Stop. Eliza and the cats lately is a thing. It's a problem. She just has too much love to give them, and it's not good. It's not good news for the cats. And no matter how intense they scratch her, she's like, I'm gonna do it again tomorrow. Doesn't matter. So yeah, it doesn't. Okay, sorry, y'all. Anyway, so I just want to talk a little bit about juggling a team as it grows, and maybe even working on scaling the things you do for your team now, so that you know that as it gets bigger, because we're going to say, yes, it's going to get bigger. You don't get to live small because it is small. You get to live big because it's going to be that way anyway. And so like talking about how to juggle a larger team, because as far as I know, all of you would like growth, right? If you don't want growth, that's fine. I'll help you learn how to sabotage your business. I can help you in that as well. I'm here for everything. But I really want to see all of you grow. I know we love to grow. And I don't think we would really be having leadership calls or attending them if we didn't want growth. So basically, it's just kind of talking about, let's talk about like juggling your personal business and your team. First of all, there's no finish line in Cincy, and I feel like sometimes when we get to star or superstar or really director is the biggest finish line people give themselves, and what happens is they cross the finish line and then they focus on their team, and they feel like they don't have to do all of the basics of Cincy anymore because they've arrived somewhere. And I don't think that anyone would say that that's what they really felt when they did it. It was more like that's just kind of what happened. Their mindset shifted for some reason.
That definitely happened to me. Experience.
Yeah. So it goes from selling and hosting and recruiting to team only, team always, and selling when I have the time. And what really has to happen if you want to grow for a long-term period and you want your team to keep growing forever, you have to stay focused on your personal business above your team. And when you set that kind of an expectation with your team, they're going to demand less of your time too, because if you tell them they have to be focusing on their personal business and 20% on their team, they're going to ask a little less of you because they're going to understand your limits in your business. And then it gives them the power to set those limits in theirs. But how do you do that? Like, it's easier said than done, right? Like when you have people messaging you like crazy about things, or you've got your phone blowing up at all hours of the night. What are some ways that you guys have set boundaries? Like, I know like Mallory has boundaries. I'm sure Shelby does because she gets to go on vacation when she wants to, right? Like, how do we live that like work-life balance? Because the one thing we can control is our personal business, and the one thing we have to tame is our team business. So like, how do you keep that in control?
So you're asking?
Yeah, I want to know, like, what are some ways that you guys do? Just so people don't get tired of hearing me talk, because I'll talk in circles, you know.
Well, I mean, I literally like learned it from you, because like there's not like there's going to be some maybe emergencies, but there's really no such thing as like a Cincy emergency. Like, it's wax and warmers. We'll get it figured out. Like, I always just keep that in the back of my head. Like, you know, if you're with your husband or your family or whatever, like, that's their time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've just really learned from the beginning with you, like, a lot of the times, like, of course you want to be there for them in the beginning, but once they start learning how to run their own business and whatnot, from the very beginning to actually someone was talking the other day, I need to do this better, but someone was talking the other day about doing like actual like business hours. Like when someone joins, you literally tell them like, these are my business hours where I can answer questions. That would be something I would love to implement. But like just from the beginning, I've always absorbed from you, Christina, that like, you know, like your time is your time. And like, honestly, a lot of the times they're looking for a quick answer when they ask you. And when they're looking for a quick answer, they're not learning anything if you're just telling them the answer. A lot of the times, like when you kind of let that text linger, they'll go look for that answer and they'll find that answer. And it's going to teach them how to be a better business owner, teach them how to be a better leader, you know? So I've just really learned that, like, honestly, like, because, you know, at the very beginning, you're going to have to tell them where the answers are. They're on the workstation. This is where it's at on the workstation, obviously. But once they know where those answers are, you kind of have to lead the horse to the water and see if it's going to drink or not, you know? And I've just learned that since the very beginning, because I've recruited since the beginning, and I've had to just always keep it like, you know, even though my sister is my upline, and obviously she's going to talk to me more than most people, like, I never ran to her for the answers because I knew it would never teach me anything. So I really want to teach that to other people, you know? But yeah, I learned that from the beginning from you. I just always picked up and I was like, okay. Because I've always envisioned myself as having a big team. So I was like, what am I going to do now from the beginning, like to make sure that this doesn't happen? Because, you know, I didn't want it to get overwhelming, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of completely like opposite from her. So I mean, I don't know if a lot of you guys like know me, but I don't have any kids. I don't have a husband. Like I now am in like a really good like new relationship. But before I think I poured in, so I know I poured so much into. I didn't set any like restrictions because I was like, okay, like I'm just by myself. Like I'm just gonna respond all the time. But I think I recently set like office hours to where I'd be like, you know, I'm available on this day and this day from this time to this time. And if I don't, if it's like, you know, 8:30 and I'm like not in my office hours, like I don't respond. And like Mallory said, like there's no such thing as a Scentsy like emergency. So if a team member is like texting you, like it's probably like not a dire like situation. So I think just like learning and like being like I don't have to respond right away because what in the world? There's like Mallory was saying, like, you know, the answers are on the workstation and like in the very beginning it's important to guide them and show them where to find it. But if you know it's a couple months in, like you have to eventually like find that balance and find that I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just like, you know, it's not an emergency. And I've heard this over and over and like leadership stuff and things like that. And it's like, you know, they're not going to die if you don't write them back right away. And sometimes we feel like we have to. But that's one thing that's really stuck with me and like building like those hours and just those like boundaries, like I said, and just like not feeling like you have to respond like first thing first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So another like issue that sometimes comes up as teams evolve is people bringing you drama that has nothing to do with Scentsy. How do we handle that? Like, is there anything that you guys would say is your kind of like approach to non-Scentsy drama that gets brought your way?
Yeah, I'm honestly pretty lucky in that standpoint. I don't have like a whole lot of drama, so that's good. But if I did, I would just kind of direct them into the point, depending on like the situation. But just like, you know, finding a positive aftermath or answer and just kind of keeping positivity flowing and finding the good in situations and pretty much just being like, if there is drama and they're bringing that to you, just letting them know first and foremost, like you're not going to put up with it. Like that's not what you're about. So you're not going to feed into it.
Mm-hmm. Some stuff like
for me, I don't even allow it to get anywhere.
Go ahead.
I don't even allow it to start in my team. If somebody starts something, I just absolutely ignore it because I'm not going to reward that type of action or even entertain it. And I have not had one problem so far because we do just shut it down right at the beginning.
Yeah. like I think I've said it to every single one of you at some point, is just what you reward is what gets repeated, and the biggest reward you give anyone is your time. So when you're giving someone your attention and your time, but they keep bringing you things that you don't want them to keep bringing you, you're really asking them to keep bringing it to you by rewarding them with your time and your attention in those situations. And it's so hard. But one thing I know that at boot camp, when Joel Curtis was still with Suncy, that he ran a class on conflict resolution, and his first bit of advice was, when someone is bringing you drama, don't forget your adults. And if they're bringing you drama, the only reason it's drama is because they don't feel like telling the person that they actually have a problem with how they feel. So he's like, first of all, if they're bringing you a problem they have with another consultant, you tell them that that's between them and that consultant, and it does not involve you. And most of the time it doesn't. They don't need you to help with that, because if they would just go talk to somebody and tell them how they feel and really work it out between the two of them, it doesn't affect either one of their businesses, honestly. And it definitely doesn't affect your 80% focus on your customers and your forward motion of high PRV and recruiting new people into the business. And so you're allowed to resign yourself from having to deal with it. That's not part of your job description. And sometimes we forget that we could say no. We can just say, hey, I'm not showing up to this. We are grown ASS people. And I know that if you would just go talk to them about it, you're either going to resolve it, or you guys can disagree to disagree and move on, because this doesn't involve me and I'm not getting involved, because it has nothing to do with my business, and it has nothing to do with Sensi and my obligation to your problems into Sensi. And I think that it's funny because I actually had an SSC who's been with Sensi for like 12 years. She called me the other day and she's like, Christina, I've got to know, how in the world on release days does your phone not blow up? I don't get how your phone isn't ringing and text message off the hook on release days, or when the workstation goes down. She goes, the workstation will go down and I've got 20 messages within minutes before I've even realized that something's even wrong. She's like, how do you manage that? Like, why don't people text you? And I was like, because I won't ever reply to that. Like, they know what my response is to something like that. Number one, I know no more than you do in this situation. And if I know more than anyone, I'm going to post it in our group. So if I don't know anything, I just don't know anything. I can't help you. Like, or if you have an actual problem, think about it. Can Christina actually fix this problem? The workstation's down. I should message Christina. Christina can do nothing about the workstation being down. So don't come at me with that, right? And so I don't get messages about workstation being down, because who can fix the workstation? Not me. And so I was like, take it exactly where it needs to go. If the workstation is down for you, maybe message one of your consultants and say, hey, is it down for you too? If it's down for them, why don't we just sit back and go do something else with our day, because it's probably down for everyone, right? And I think that just like curating what gets your attention is going to make sure that people only bring to you the stuff that they know you're going to respond to. But I was like, it's just an attitude that you set right up front with people, and an expectation. Not that you're not helpful. I'm super helpful, but what I want to help people with is ideas on how to keep working their business better, ideas on different like ways to run their business that works better for them, ideas on more PRV, how to recruit, things that like are really going to help make them money. Things that don't really matter long term or 5 minutes from now, they're not going to get my immediate attention, because what happens if the workstation goes down? In about 20 minutes, it's probably going to be up again anyway. And if I wait 20 minutes to respond to that message, you don't actually need me anymore. Secondly, if something happens huge, like where the workstation went down, nobody got their orders in, Cincy usually will fix it some other way, right? They're going to make an announcement. They're going to let you know. They're going to tell us that, you know, if they're going to be able to like add some time to XYZ, we will all find out at the same time what they're going to do about it, right? And I think it's just really important, just like Shelby and Mallory said, is there's no such thing as a wax emergency. There really just isn't. It's wax and warmers. And we just can't give certain problems more weight than they deserve. And setting those expectations ahead of time with your team and your customers is going to diffuse a lot of the situations when they come up. I mean, I think our entire team knows, hey, do your best to get in on LTOs. And if you don't get it, you just don't get it, right? Like, that's all. I mean, bummer. Like we're all pretty much in agreement that that's our attitude towards that kind of thing. You just do your best. But you know what? I say the same thing to my customers. I'm like, hey, here you go. Here's my PWS. I'm not going to place the orders for you. If you want it that bad, you're going to pay shipping because I just don't want to mess with, I don't want to be solely responsible for not getting all those in. There's no such thing as a Scentsy emergency. And as long as you continue to communicate what's going to get your attention and what we as a team will focus on, they're going to follow suit. So what are some other tips that you guys have for balancing team and personal business, especially like when you do need to be focusing on parties and you need to be focusing on your customers, but you feel like all the time you're spending is on your team? What are some ways that you can help better balance that?
One time Chloe Cox said something that really stuck with me, and she said the first week of every month she focused just on her business. Like she's not coaching, she's not doing coaching calls, she's not doing anything team related for the first week of her business. Like I don't even start working on my mail outs for the month before till like the 7th or the 8th, because the first week of every month I'm focused on making sure my calendar's front loaded as much as possible, or doing more front loading, obviously, and making sure like I'm prepared personally for my parties and for what I have planned for my business that month. And then after the first week, if I feel like I'm, more geared up, ready to go for the month, then I start
walking upstairs to go to the bathroom.
Training calls and booking training calls with people, or like getting on here and doing lives about like certain things I'm doing or whatever I might be sharing to help, lead. I'm not worried about that till after about the first week and a half of the month, because the first week is me focused on my business. Because like you always say, Christina, if your business goes into the tank, then what's the point of having a team? Because like you lost your team if you lose your business. So like, you know what I'm saying? So that's my first focus every week, the first week of every month. No team, anything. Like if there's an absolute like problem, yes, but like no coaching calls, nothing like that until the first week's over and I feel comfortable enough to start on my team.
For sure.
Yeah, I kind of do that exact same thing, but mine's weekly. So on Mondays, I start my week off and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get in my office. I'm going to plan my own business. Because if we're not in control of like our own businesses and focusing on our own PRV, our own recruiting, like you can't lead from the front. You can't expect your team to follow if you're not doing the same thing. So I do the exact same thing. It's just always on a Monday, and I'll plan out my week and like my PRV. So Mondays I focus on like my business day, and that's my recruiting day, my party day, my booking blitz day, and just doing all the things. So same thing, just different. It's a weekly thing and not a monthly. So
one thing too that I feel like is kind of cyclical with that sort of imbalance in your business is every so often we think our personal business isn't doing very well, so we obsess over the team we have because we're afraid of losing them because we're not bringing anything new in. So we freak out trying to save and revive dead teammates and legs that are not performing anymore because we're so afraid that this is as good as it's ever going to get. And honestly, we cannot run our businesses in fear or scarcity, because the funny thing is that mindset that things are never going to get better is actually what's preventing you from actually pushing harder in your personal business, because you keep telling yourself that no one wants to join right now, or my customers aren't responding to me, or it's not worth my time to be spending time over there because it's dying over there, so I need to save what I've got over here. And we tend to get in that weird backwards upside down cycle of just fear and scarcity in our business that drives us towards spending way too much time on a dying team than bringing in brand new people to help revive our team. Because when we obsess over the team we have, it's because we don't believe that we're going to keep performing at the level we're performing at right now. And I'm not saying stop worrying about your team, but I think that you have to get real with yourself about what direct sales is. And for most people, direct sales is a very transient business, and we have to let it be that for them. If somebody wants to come in for a little while and leave, they get to. If somebody wants to come in and hit director and then peace out, they're allowed to. It has nothing to do with us, and it has everything to do with direct sales. That's just what direct sales is. It's not a forever thing for a lot of people. It's a forever thing for some of us, right? We know that this is where we're going to be long term, but some people aren't there, and some people will never get there. And sometimes we put our Scentsy forever on someone's Scentsy temporary, and it causes us to freak out. And we start reacting to things in more of a fear way versus in a, that's fine because I'm just going to keep spreading it and we're going to be fine because there's so many more people I could be talking to. And I think that once you stop leading your team with fear and you start leading your team with like more of a future approach of knowing, hey, I kick butt at what I do. I didn't get where I'm at on accident. I'm going to keep talking to new people. I'm going to find ways to meet new people. I'm going to flip that next host. And you just keep talking to yourself positively about your personal business. You won't be leading your team with fear anymore. And a lot of times when they know that you're afraid to lose them, they will use that against you. And they'll bring you all that drama and they'll try to make you save them because they know that you're too afraid to lose them and you're going to keep showing up to those arguments you don't want to be in. And you're going to keep fighting for someone who has a very dead business, but they love the attention they're getting from you because they know that you're afraid to lose them. Or they'll start threatening you with quitting because of XYZ or because you didn't show up to that one argument that one time. But when you start living your business and working your business in a way where you don't make anyone feel like they owe you anything, you never feel like, hey, if you quit, I'm done, right? Because it doesn't matter if that's true right now, but it's really not true. If somebody quits, you're only done if you stop, right? I mean, it's never fun to start over and it's never fun to rebuild. But if you never get out of the habit of building constantly, you will never fall that low. One person's never going to make that many waves in your business if you don't let them. And it's really, really important to stay ahead of that in your personal business, because when we stop working our personal business, that's when we start clinging to our team with just fear of losing them, because we need them to stick around while we figure the rest of this out. But really, if we stay focused in our personal business, honestly, your team, if their why is big enough, they need to be staying for them anyway. They need to be staying no matter what you answer, what you show up to, what you provide them. If their why is big enough, they're going to stay anyway. And honestly, the biggest blessing that you can give someone is the feeling that they can work their business independently of you. And not because you don't want them to come to you, but because they can do it. They absolutely can. And I think it's been really, like, I have a very hands-off approach. Like, I wouldn't say hands-off approach to leadership, but I think compared to some people I know in like the director pages or star director pages who've been stuck in the same place for so long, the amount of time they spend on their team is the problem. Like, they're spending 80% of their time on their team, and that's where 2 to 9% of your income is from, whereas 25 to 30% of your income is from your PRV and your personal business. So it should make more sense to be spending your time right there. Your team income is your residual income for sure, and you do have to keep keeping it alive and keep fostering it, but honestly, you still get paid more every time you bring a new person into the business than you do trying to fix somebody who's fallen out of love with it. And so it's really important to continue that growth just from the beginning, over and over and over and over again. It should be literally rinse and repeat. Your business should just be over and over and over and over again. And we have to get comfortable and we have to be obsessed with the process of the build, because when we fall out of love with the PRV and the recruiting, that's when our team dies. It's not because we stopped paying attention to our team. It's because we fell out of love with what got it there. And that happens when you spend way too much time on your team out of fear of losing them. When honestly, if you were focusing on your business, you wouldn't worry about losing anybody because you knew your next person was coming, right? Does anybody else have anything towards that kind of speaking towards that, I guess?
Just that the team that you get to a certain point with isn't the same team that's going to take you to the next point.
Correct.
Like I started out, and when I hit director, I had one team, and then through life and crazy things going on, the ones that were actually my strongest in their sales and what they were doing fell off, or at least went down to just barely active. And it was through building and working with my team when they asked for help that we've rebuilt, and now we have a stronger base because I now have 3 stars instead of 1 star, and the 2 of us carrying most of the load.
Yeah, I think that when the second time you rebuilt stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Than you did the first time, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and my focus now is just in trying to get 4 or more stars on my team and watch them grow and keep on building those stars. And I'm teaching my team, you know, that they need to have 3 certifieds or 3 leads to keep where they need to go, and trying to help them see what they need a breakdown of to keep at the either at paid at title or going up to the next step, and
For
encouraging them to build to those levels.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of your team balance comes from their first 70 days. Like if you don't attack their first 70 days with a lot of intention and getting them started right, they're going to constantly be dependent on you. And the goal of their first 70 days is to turn them into an independent Scentsy consultant. So I think that a lot of that is really just dependent on what your startup system is for your new recruits, and what you're teaching them in those 70 days to get them autonomous, right? Because what we want them to do is, we don't want them to feel dependent on any of that, on anyone. We don't want them dependent on you. We don't want them to be dependent on even Scentsy releasing a new LTO. We don't want them to be dependent on anything. We want them to be fully independent by the end of their 70 days if possible. So that as a team, we're not dependent on each other. We are just in community with each other. We're just celebrating each other. We're just sharing with each other. We're just cheering each other on. And we have room to do that when we feel like we own our own businesses, right? And I think that when you do feel like you own your own business, you're definitely more apt to be sharing with others. You are more apt to be cheering others on. So yeah, like, so as far as your first 70 days, that's one thing I told some of our directors, if they have like a system that they use for their first 70 days, just to share it. Sarah Ford's not here, but she mentioned that she uses Amy, because I don't know if any of you guys know that Amy will let your frontline be put into your follow-up system. And so every month it will tell you when to be texting your frontline and how to be checking in with them. And then that way you can just kind of send like a quick text saying, hey, it's the first of the month, how you doing? Is there anything I can help you with this month? And just keeping that relationship alive. One thing I do, and it seems really lazy, but for their first 70 days, I just keep asking them how they're doing with their Scentsy emails and their first things first checklist. I do not provide new content for them. I do not send them training videos. I don't really do a whole lot of my own content creation in the first 70 days, because Scentsy's startup is so strong and there's so much information to that honestly adding too much of your own might overwhelm them. But showing up and just saying, hey, how's it going with that? How far are you into your first things first checklist? Hey, did you have your launch party scheduled? I know that was one of the things that Scentsy sent you. Have you had a chance to check into that? And honestly, just asking follow-up questions to things that Scentsy has already been sending them. Which, if you guys have seen in the Free to Flourish group, I did have, there's a unit on there for new consultants, and a lot of that is just the stuff that Scentsy sends them. So being able to just contact them saying, hey, I know you got this email today, you know, did you get a chance to look at it? Is there anything I can help you with? And just keeping that somewhat like, I'm just here to support you, but not like over aggressive training approach to them. That's what works the best for me. And honestly, the people who want to do it are going to do it anyway, and the people who don't want to do it aren't going to. But just don't put all your eggs into each recruit, because you're going to get really upset. You just have to keep adding the next one, and then just hoping that one's going to be the next one that keeps going. The funny thing is, like, one of my girls right now, Melissa, she's been posting a lot in the team page, and she's a frontline of mine, but I didn't do anything to start her off special. I just literally said, hey, welcome to the team. Scensy's going to send you a bunch of emails, and there's a first things first checklist on your workstation. Once you get logged in there, I want you just to go break the workstation. Let me know if you run into any problems, and let me know how I can help you get your first sale. Cool, thanks. And she just ran off with it. She just followed all the Scentsy stuff. She asked me if she had a question here and there. And I was like, hey, and look at our team page. There's tons of trainings. You're going to have an awesome time meeting new people in there. Just cheer people on. We would love to cheer you on too. Let me know what you're excited about. When you do get your first party booked, let me know, because I want to cheer you on, and I want to be there, and I want to check in after it's done to see how it went. That's really all I do. I keep it really casual. There's people who have way more stringent frontline training things. But honestly, Scentsy's not that hard to get started with. they cover all of the bases in email and in the first things first checklist. Like they cannot possibly not learn something because of how very, it's very, what is it? What's the word? It starts with a C.
Comprehensive.
Comprehensive. I think that's it, right? Does that sound like it's the right word? It's a very comprehensive training program. Yeah. It has like, does everything thorough. Is comprehensive it? Yeah, I think so. Y'all knew where my brain was trying to go. But since he does the hard work for you, you get to just be the buddy and the mentor and the friend right there up front saying, hey, you know, they're going to send you emails. If anything doesn't make sense, let me know. Get logged into your workstation, go break it. Make sure that you've set your account up on your account tab, do your story, add a picture. Go ahead and start a fake order. You can't mess it up. If you put in your money, then you probably mess it up, but don't put your money in. But go play with everything. You can't break it. Read your consultant guide and let me know if there's questions that you have about anything. And honestly, like if they want it, they just go do it and they have fun with it. And a lot of those people, they're just excited to join and they're going to go anyway with it. And worst case, if you really don't know what to do with a new recruit, or they have kind of like started a little bit and then they're kind of like not doing anything, just be like, hey, your first Cincy paycheck, what would you like for that to do for you? Like, if we could get you to $200 your first paycheck, would that excite you? Is there something that you could use $200 for next month? Cool. And they'll be like, yeah, like, what would you love to do with that? Like, how can I help you accomplish that 30-day goal? And setting those tiny little 30-day goals until someone has their big, like, they want to cry when they think about what their why for Cincy is, because a lot of people don't hit that moment until they've really seen what Cincy can do. Focus on those 30-day goals. Be like, hey, what's your 30-day goal this month? And you can send that out using Amy in the beginning of every month, being like, hey, what's your 30-day goal this month? And that's honestly, for a lot of your teammates, that's enough. Just knowing that you care enough to ask, that's enough for them, right? So just being able to be there when they need you for stuff like that is really important. But I think that as long as you keep that sort of loosey-goosey approach, I mean, I know that that sounds really like lazy, but it has worked for me for 9 years, I guess. I mean, I'm doing okay. It's funny because I always give myself a really hard time because I still play the comparison game to other people. Like, I'm like, I don't have this big binder and I don't do this thing with them and I don't check in with them every 2 days. Like, and I always give myself a really hard time about that. Whereas definitely there's areas where I know that I can do better, especially when it comes to long-term retention of frontline that don't hit their goals. Like my frontline retention is either they drop off in those first 3 months, but guess what? That is company-wide. That is not you. You don't get to take blame for that. That is a company-wide thing where people drop off in their first 3 to 4 months. So don't take blame for that. Don't take that personally. That is company-wide. My issue is it's usually like right before they hit a year. And I think that it's like one of those things where maybe I didn't realize they weren't hitting that 30-day goal that they were trying to do. And then they just got discouraged thinking maybe I just can't do this. You know what I mean? And trying to find a good balance of when to check in and revisit those kind of goals that they're setting, or even just what their motivation every time is. Yeah, but other than that, retention is pretty much where my focus is, but starting them off is usually okay. But I think if you keep pushing them back to the Cincy trainings from the beginning, they're going to rely on their workstation and their Cincy stuff from the beginning. Like, and I mean, I have my own training videos for a lot of different things. And every so often I'll use one of those when they need like specialized advice in a certain area. But if you keep pushing that first things first checklist and you keep pushing their new consultant guide and you keep making sure they're checking for those Cincy emails and they get so used to logging into their workstation every day, it becomes habit to be checking the workstation first, especially in those first 70 days when you keep pushing them back towards, and I don't mean in like you should be looking at your workstation way. No, but like, hey, oh my gosh, the training center, I don't know if you noticed, but I want you to go click the training center and go look at those new consultant resources. There are so many cool things in there. Let me know which one of those videos ends up being your favorite. Or like, hey, if you find a really cool one in there that you like learned a lot from, will you share that in the group page? And they just get so used to going into their workstation over and over and over again that it will become a habit for them to check there for everything because they're going to be very familiar with it right from the start. But that's the only thing I think that long-term I changed in how I was training people. I stopped sending them all of my own content and really pushing that Cincy content, because it takes so much pressure off of me, and it a lot less strain on our group as a resource when they get really used to doing that. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any tips in that area as well. Or startup tips for your new consultants that helps get them engaged quickly and going the right direction quickly.
So what I started doing a few months ago is I started printing off the, I'm bad with knowing what things are called, but the compensation plan, like for what level you're at.
Yeah.
Like I posted in the directors group how I made those postcards. So the reason I made those is because I was printing off those and the first 70 days, like the sensational start, I was printing those up and sending them to people and sending them the certified or the lead based on where they're at and stuff. And that is when I saw a big change, like just being consistent with what the workstation is telling them, and then their leader telling them the same thing, that this is what you need to focus on, and giving them the same thing the workstation was giving them. I think that really helped a lot. So like what you said was like gold. Like that's like, I really connected with that. Like, yeah, like it's so true. Just being consistent and pointing them back to the workstation has been gold. So.
And if you do it from the start like that in there for 70 days, they never find it weird when someone asks them to use their workstation as a reference. They don't, because it's habit. And I think that that's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. And sometimes you're not going to be able to fix the culture you have with your current team, but you can reset that culture with everyone who's new coming in. And that's one reason we merged teams, which I think that there's a lot to that. Like it was a little difficult to let go of the control. I think for some people, like for some of us, I think it's hard letting go of that like tiny little cozy control. But what it does is it gives you time to run your personal business, because you know that if you don't check the group for 2 hours, someone's probably going to approve that post. Someone's going to let your new team member in, or someone's going to answer their question. Someone's going to cheer your friend on that just hit a huge promotion. Like a lot of that's going to be taken care of. So being able to set boundaries with your time in regards to your team page is huge. And so that's why we want this huge group just to be a resource for all of you. You don't have to go reinvent the wheel. You don't have to create trainings that are already in there. You get to leverage the resources of the whole group. Also, one thing I learned is when I communicate to my team through text and email, my retention is way higher than if I throw them in the group and maybe accidentally don't notice that they're not engaging anymore. But if I text them and I email them, I retain them because they are getting that one-on-one contact with me instead of me using the group as my only interaction with them. Again, when I text and one-on-one email them, that's where they send a lot of their questions versus posting them in the group. And I think that it's really, really important to make sure that it always looks like you're accessible, especially by email. The nice thing is by email is if you don't respond right away, they get it. By text, they don't. So if you open that line of communication through email really easily and just use your workstation, it's so easy. You literally just go to reporting, you click run leadership report, you hit the checkbox of everybody and hit email, and you can send out an email to everybody. One thing that this is really great for too is, I don't know if you've ever seen like Chloe Cox and a lot of people in our team have been doing it now too, is you take your group and you sort it by PRV. You grab those first 20 or those first 50 and you send an email halfway through the month saying, hey, you're in the top 50 of PRV for our team this month. That took you 5 minutes, and they got another point of contact with you, which just makes them really excited. But making sure that you stay open through texting and email without like on call through texting and email is definitely a fine line. However, it also helps you gauge the interest and the activity of your teammates, because not all of them are on Facebook. Not all of them care about being in a group. A lot of our hobby people really don't care about the group. I mean, because they're going to do their own thing anyway. I've got a girl that's been with me for 8 years. She's never posted in the group. I don't even think we're friends on Facebook. I think she blocked me a long time ago, but she knows she can get a hold of me by email if she needs to. And she still does it. She's been doing it for 8 years with no contact with me. Like, she knows how to get a hold of me. gonna still get an email from me every week, even if she's not in our group, even if she's not participating in anything, or not every week, but every month or so when I send them. But I need to get better at sending them more often in my life. That's why I got a MacBook, so I can do all this from my bed now. Because that's where my life is taking me at this moment, is in my bed all the time. So that's what we're gonna do. And so, but just being able to stay in contact with them through email and texting. But that way, if you still want that little culture, you can do it that way. Does anybody else have other ways that they connect with their team outside of Facebook? Or keeps them engaged?
So we have a group me. Excuse me. We have a group me where we just like the first of the month when I'm looking at the set of the month stuff, I just kind of do a quick, hey, what's everyone's goals for the month? And then that kind of starts conversation amongst themselves.
Mm-hmm. So. And group me is an app, if you guys don't know what that is. But it's just like it's like group messaging, but has a little bit more of a category if it needs to, I think, right? Like you can categorize there's like, I don't know how to use it very well. I have that, and what's the other one? Slack. I think they're similar.
Yeah, I don't like Slack, but
I think
that's just
or
me.
Is Slack more like Discord? I don't know the difference between all of them. I'm on a group me right now.
Slack is kind of like Microsoft Teams, if you guys have ever used that. But yeah, group me is like an app, and you can have multiple group chats within the group me. So like, let's say you wanted to do with just one with just your front line, and then one with the entire team, but maybe you don't necessarily manage it, you just set it up, and then everybody else can kind of chime in or whatever.
That's really cool. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can connect. I think that's a really good way to connect for a small little, but that's also too, like, because it's something, oh my gosh, shut the door, this bedroom door. Okay. So it's just a really good way to connect just more of a personal one-on-one basis, which is how you want to connect with your team. You're going to have better retention, and you're going to be less stressed if you have a little more of that one-on-one. And they're going to feel loved and valued, and they can't hide. But yeah, the big group is supposed to give you some relief from some of that so that you can focus on your personal business a little more. And if you are ever in the big group and you feel like you're the only one approving posts or you're the only one approving members, then don't do it. Because it might be because you're the one that's getting to it too much and you're still in the habit of checking it too often. Does that make sense? So let it go. Let it go for a little while, because no matter what, someone's going to get to it. I promise they will. And if they don't, there's no sense the emergencies. And a lot of times, if you at least just on the approvals of team members, if they were added by somebody in the group, just approve them. Don't worry about the questions. Don't add any extra drama if you don't have to. But if they were added by someone in the group, just approve them. That way they can get their shout out and they can have some fun. Just every so often, if you want to, after that, just go tag them in the rules post instead of waiting until they fill out some of that, or just message the person that added them. But really, honestly, even if they never read the rules, that's why we also have post approvals on, because if they decided not to read the rule, we can just delete the post and message them and say, hey, go check out the rules if you need to, or when you delete their post, it lets you send them the rule that was violated. So there's a secondary built-in process for that, so you don't have to worry too much about that. I honestly, especially with with teammate approvals, I usually approve it the second I see it, because I know that they're going to want to see their shout out, and they're going to want to, like, that team member who is shouting them out is excited for them to see that they're being welcomed. So I'm probably the one that's causing the chaos there. It's fine. But if you do feel like you're the only one approving, just step back. Don't do it. Go work your business for a while and let someone else take care of it. Because it's honestly, because the group is supposed to be permission for you to go work your own personal business. If you do feel like you're the only one approving it, it's because everyone else is off working their personal businesses. Does that make sense? And so you have permission to let it sit and go work your business too, and let it just, the next person who jumps on can do it. Sound good? But it's really supposed to help you balance that better, so you don't feel like you're on call all the time. So does anybody else have any other tips for just engagement and just getting people autonomous quickly?
I like Marco Polo a lot. you can kind of squeeze in some training calls without them even realizing with Marco Polo. So
True. True.
You can have a little longer of a conversation if you catch them right when they're on it, and you're like, if you're on it at that time, you can go back and forth. Or like, I don't know, it's just cool to be able to like be on something and like maybe flip my camera around and like show them some on my workstation real quick on like a video or whatever, you know. So I like Marco Polo.
I know a lot of directors and leaders. Like I do working Zooms with. Sometimes I do working Zooms with you guys, and then other times I do working Zooms with other leaders in Sensi. Whereas like it'd be like a Tuesday morning and I know I'm working at my desk, I'll be like, hey, is anyone working right now? Did you guys want to hang out while we work? And it's kind of nice because then we can, it's funny how often when you're working with other people and you see them doing stuff and you're like, what are you doing over there? Like Mallory right now, she's putting drugs in little bags. That's what we do in our life. She's scooping them out. You might want to weigh them and weigh them out by the gram. Make sure you're getting them the right sample size here.
Drug.
And just doing working Zooms with just people in the big group. You can do working Zooms. Just pop a Zoom link into this leadership group too if you want to work with people who are at the same level as you, just to see what they do. Also, what if you sent an email out to all of your frontline or your whole team one day and said, hey, every Tuesday morning around 9 a.m. I know that I'm at my desk working, so if anybody wants to work with me, here's my Zoom link. And then every Tuesday morning, you can send that out and go, hey, it's Tuesday morning. If anybody wants to have coffee and work a little bit, I'll be on for the next hour and a half if you guys want to hang out. That's another really cool way for them to be able to plug in more of a personal way. So I promise it's worth engaging on that small scale with them versus into a big Facebook group. Facebook's annoying anyway. And you know what happens when you make Facebook the only place that people get their information? They're going to check our group for 30 seconds and then they're going to scroll for 3 hours, filling their mind with junk. So if we can make sure that Facebook doesn't feel like it's the only place they're getting any of their information, you're going to keep them in their productivity zones way more often. Because I know that happens for me. If I come out to go check our group, Facebook consumes me. So being able to like make sure that they're able to feel like they're still connected off of Facebook is another really good reason for not having a ton of Facebook groups for them to be in. All right. Anybody else have any questions or any like questions about just juggling your team and your business? Or any ideas for something that you do that helps you with it? Otherwise, I'm going to piece you all out of here and upload the recording. For Jessica Kitchen, who could not be with us today. Or others. Because I changed it and I forgot last week. I'm glad you guys still like me.
Hold on. Someone asked a question about GroupMe and
where's the chat? I don't even have it. Oh yeah.
Let's see. So I know for me personally, it started off as my front line. And then what I did was if those that had people sign up under themselves, they could add their front line if they wanted. Just like I don't immediately respond. And the one thing I like about GroupMe is that I can also mute it. So if it's after hours and y'all want to have a conversation about Marvel that released today, I will address it tomorrow.
That's cool that you can mute it so you don't feel like you have to be on it all day long. Because you could probably even set like hours where you get the notifications and then when you don't, like that way you don't have to worry about it and you don't feel pressured to go check. That's awesome. That's awesome. Anybody else have anything? Otherwise, I'm going to say goodnight. Hopefully that was helpful. Sometimes even just chatting about stuff is helpful or seeing people's faces. So cool. Also, Shelby and Mallory, I have to talk to you because I don't know what we're doing for July. Goodbye.
Good night.
We'll figure it out. I want to make my image. It's fine. Goodbye.
Everything's fine.
Good night, guys. Love you.
Love you.
I have a random question. Did you guys decide
sure.
what we